Radio Freedom, we got it, we share it. Welcome to the KJLH Front Page Saturday Town Hall edition. It is brought to you by the great city of Los Angeles, Community Build, the Independent Professionals Association at indiework.org, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, and our friend and colleague, Council President Emeritus Herb Wesson Jr. Good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Good morning, Front Page family. I hope all is well. If I could, I'd like to congratulate you guys on the Women's Expo 20th year. I know organizations that last 20 minutes. So 20 years is a heck of a long time to be doing good work. So let's have a good program, I guess, starting after the show.
Yeah, directly after the show. Thanks for your commendation.
You know what else? We need to thank and welcome Supervisor Ridley Thomas as one of the sponsors. This program, in my opinion, has been phenomenal, especially for all of the listeners on, throughout this region, and we need resources. And I want to thank him for stepping up and helping us to continue to give this kind of information out to the people who definitely want to need it. It's kind of unvarnished, straight talk, and we need more of that.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate you guys making that possible. And you've been busy. I mean, our topic this week is bills. Is more help on the way? And I know certainly if it is, a lot of it has to do with the efforts that you've been making. I mean, I, for one, really appreciate that. It's nice to see our city doing stuff. The rent relief is still ongoing, even though the first deadline, the Renters Assistance Program, the first deadline passed, but there is another round of that coming, correct?
Yeah, and we're looking at trying to put together other financial resources. We realize that we're never going to have enough to do what actually needs to be done here in this region. But, I want to give a shout out to the three ladies that you had on earlier, representing the tenants and the tenants union. They, without a doubt, are out there in the trenches doing the Lord's work. And what I want to emphasize is that what they're calling for is a cancellation of rent, which I totally support and should be in place, but also mortgage forgiveness for the small landlords. You can't do one without the other. And really, this is something that the federal government needs to step up and do. They need to cancel rent. They need to put in place a mortgage forgiveness program. They need to reauthorize the unemployment benefits. And we really need to focus on a New Deal type job. You go into shelter, you huddle up, you take care of each other. Well, this country is in the middle of the storm. And I think it's the responsibility of the president and the federal government to huddle us all together. Everybody take a time out, and let's come up with a way to survive until this is over. We bailed out the banks. It's time for them. Turnabout is fair play. And because the federal government is not doing the things that it needs to do, it forces local governments, where the people have more trust in anyway, to do creative jobs that really don't even fall within our job description.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things I love about the rent relief program that the LA City Council did is that it's getting it right. It might not be able to cover the whole problem, but relief in the form of payments to landlords on behalf of renters. That's a win-win for landlords, mom and pop landlords, for renters, and also, for not stacking up debt that we can't pay at the end of this, whenever this crisis subsides.
Well, we hope to help over 50,000 families or 50,000 renters, but you're right. Prior to the pandemic, individuals were rent burdened and they were struggling to pay their rent. What really makes us believe that 4 months from now, 5 months from now, when individuals owe 4 months rent, that they're going to have the financial resources to pay all of that when they were struggling to pay 1 month at a time? And so that's why I keep, going back to the federal government, which they could do with one swoop, correct this problem. But you make me think of something else. A few years back, I was promoting, along with a bunch of good folk, a public bank. I think this is still a good example of why that we have a need. If we had public banks in place, they could float bonds. We could then come up with some kind of tax credit program for our landlords, and we could help get through this. So in the future, I hope we'll be having more conversations about public banks, and we need to look at putting one in place because there's always going to be a pandemic or some kind of demic. You know what I mean? And so it's good to have in place the mechanisms that you need that can provide service.
Absolutely. Well, we're being joined right now by a performer who is truly national and international. She's a self-made artist who started her own label to get her career off the ground and now has gone worldwide with multiple hits. She's also, you may not know, a civil rights activist in her own right, performing at rallies and demonstrations, around the world and around the nation. And she's also my Bay Area homegirl, Goapele. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. Always good to hear your voice. It's almost as good as seeing you. We've been seeing each other for years and years at events, and it's always, your heart is always in the right place. So I'm happy to join this conversation this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Goapele, I just saw you with our boss, the owner of this radio station, on Sheila E.'s big fundraiser for Elevate Oakland, which was also a fundraiser for Black Lives Matter International. So great example of the activism that you take on as an artist.
Thank you. Yes, Sheila E. just hosted a live show in Oakland at Yoshi's last Saturday, and it's going to re-air today. It's called Stand Together, and I joined virtually, as well as Stevie Wonder, Let Us See was on there, Avery Sunshine, Dwayne Wiggins from Tony, and also, Angela Davis and other leaders joined, and so it really just had a good feeling. I feel like it's so easy to feel isolated right now, and it's so important to keep finding ways for us to come together, even if it's, virtual or, on the radio like this, any excuse to feel like we're coming together as a community at large.
And I think Council President Emeritus Herb Wesson, who's on with you, Goapele, has been, you've been council member, you've been really strong on commending those artists like Goapele that really do make a commitment to impacting the community. I know you had that incredible event with all the comics. Why do you think it's so important to connect artists, council member, with activism in that way?
Well, I really appreciate you asking me that question because I was going to jump in and say something about it anyway. It's such an honor to be on the show with you. I want you to know that. But what our community will never forget is our star athletes, our celebrities, our comedians, our musicians that have really stepped up during this point in time. And I just think it's so commendable that individuals that, as they are becoming successful, that they always stop and try to bring somebody else up with them. Like we just did a computer giveaway to children in our foster care system. And I got more tired than Tiffany Haddish did. She was there as we were giving away. But if you look at what Mr. Wonder's done, you've had Ice Cube involved, Goapele, Common. We've had so many celebrities stand up, and that really helps, us regular folk, because you mean so much to us. So I just can't say enough. And continue to do what you're doing. We need you, and you inspire us.
Absolutely.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, we all need each other to be working at every level to change this system and improve it so everybody can get to a point where they're thriving. I feel like every direction is necessary right now.
Goapele, what is it about those of us from the Bay Area that it's like almost in our DNA? We got to be involved as activists no matter what other job we have.
Exactly. You know what? I think it's in the air in the Bay Area.
I think
Oakland,
it's in the water.
Berkeley, and San Francisco, right? It's in the water. It's the Bay. And there's, from the Black Panther movement to the anti-apartheid movement to the feminist movement, to youth activism. I mean, I think, it's natural to grow up around it. And, it's not really independent. It's not, a professional. There's not a big music industry here, but there's so many creative people here. And so I think it kind of all melds together with the consciousness. And then, like you're saying, I think it is in our DNA too. I'm a second generation immigrant and having family from South Africa, who had to leave under the apartheid system. And, growing up, it felt like maybe that system would never change. And when I was in high school, I finally got to visit family that I had never met because my father was finally allowed to go back. And, Mandela was elected president and the system was changing to bring equality and some power back to South Africans. And, my mother's family fled Nazi Germany. So it's kind of like it's also in the DNA too, of, I think struggle and transformation.
Yeah, those family traditions, they exist in the Wesson household too.
Yes, they do. That's for sure. But, I think when I think of Northern California and Oakland and San Francisco, it's kind of like Oakland, San Francisco collided with a piece of New York. They're kind of like the heart of the country with the California wraparound. And most of the individuals that I've dealt with from that region, not only are they bright, very focused, but they share and they're fearless. And I think that spills over on the rest of us and helps us. But when you look at the folk that have come out of that region, from Willie Brown and Kamala Harris to Sheila E. And I mean, it's a bad place to be from in a positive way.
Yeah, no doubt. So,
in fact, I think Dr. Melina Abdullah comes from there. So
I know she spent quite a bit of time there. Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah.
So right now we're also dealing with, the national and international reckoning on systemic racism, on, just policing. Council President Emeritus Herb Wesson, you've been part of it, a leader in the movement here in terms of lawmakers to shift budget priorities, as I call it, around police. City Council moved $150 million out of LAPD and is forming task forces that can address non-emergency or non-violent kind of incidents that the police might normally address. So, I mean, what I'm looking for here is, your thoughts, Council President Emeritus Wesson, on where we are with this process, and Goapele, your thoughts as an artist about, how you see art and politics coming together here to help end systemic racism, and what you see your role in that as.
Well, I'll just jump in quickly and remind you that it is Herb.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Herb.
Oh, yeah. He wants to be called Herb,
you know that. And we're talking about reimagining public safety. And I'm glad to be, one of the folks at the tip of the spear on this. I think that what we're talking about is governments have a responsibility to be more creative, to get better as time goes on. And we kind of been locked in a time warp where it relates to public safety. And it's time for us to get out of that and recognize that if you have somebody, let's hypothetically say that unfortunately went out Friday night and had too much Hennessy and they're drunk on their behinds, to have individuals that are trained mental health that can talk this person down, give them some water, take them home, and then when they wake up in the morning, they see a notice where they have to appear in court in like 40 days, that you save a life. We're doing public safety, and we're doing it in a way where we remove a lot of the opportunities for conflict. And that's what this conversation is about. Me and several other council people are going to be issuing or sending out a survey trying to get input from the community. We're going to be having three community input sessions where people from the community can call in or Zoom in and give their recommendations as to what reimagining public safety means to them. And once that occurs, we're going to get at trying to put something together that works for everyone.
And Goapele, your thoughts on the movement for Black Lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been extremely powerful to see how Black Lives Matter has grown over the past 7 years and how it has turned into a global movement. I think it's so overdue in time for all of us to feel like our lives are valued. And I feel like it's with this pandemic, there's not distractions in the same way. And we're coming back to realizing what's important. You know what I mean? And life and, our families feeling safe and protected and having a roof over your head, having good health or access to health care, having jobs, all of those kind of things are really, I think, what we all want for our families. And I think injustice and just the huge divide has been exposed in such a clear way. But I feel really inspired with all the calls to action and, putting the Breathe Act out there and seeing the leadership of Black women at this time, I feel like has just been such a life-affirming thing and has finally put pressure on the system because so many people are coming out in numbers to actually change some policies in the midst of craziness, because this is systemic racism has been there since before any of us were born, and I think defund the police, more people understanding that and realizing that, when money is leaving the public school systems and art and music, isn't there, and so many different resources for mental health and food, just all kinds of resources, job trainings. When we don't see those things enough in our communities, money for policing and military and prisons is always there, and it's always been invested into. So reallocating that money means there can be resources to other places. And I think, when we're all thriving and our families are thriving, there's less stress and better health and more opportunity and inspiration, and crime's going to go down.
Well said. Well, we have just really literally 60 seconds left. I know some folks behind the scenes were trying to get you to sing Goapele. I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Well, let me tell you, I sure did not warm up my voice.
Okay, well, maybe Council President Emeritus Wesson will sing for us.
And if I sing, you'll lose every listener that you've ever had. But I would say that I'd love to take Goapele with me everywhere I go, because she really laid out. And I think that that's just what everybody's thinking about. She really laid out what reimagining public safety is all about. It's about investing in the community. It's about jobs. It's about coming up with a better way to deal with individuals that have addiction issues and mental health issues. I wish you could just sing that. Even if you didn't warm your voice up, sing or hum something.
I can say the phrase. I feel like you know this song, and I feel like we're finally at a time where a change is coming. So I'll just say, it's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Because I really do feel like we're in the midst of transformation right now. If we keep our foot on the gas.
Thank you so much.
And support each other.
We must do that. This is the greatest opportunity that this country's ever had to be more fair and more just.
Thank you guys both, Goapele and Herb, Councilmember Wesson. Thanks so much. Shifting gears, we are going.
Thank you, Dominique, for the opportunity and for the platform.
Appreciate you.
Giving.
The KJLH Women's Health Expo is up next. It's the 20th annual, and it is at kjlhradio.com.